This conference will now be recorded.
It's Tuesday, January 14th, 2025. Welcome to the AnCan virtual support meeting for high risk, recurrent, and advanced prostate cancer. Thank you all for joining. I'm moderator Ben Nathanson, and I'm joined by moderators Len Sierra, John Antonucci, and Rick Davis, the founder of AnCan. You'll hear medical issues discussed, but we're just a bunch of guys. Nothing here is medical advice. We're supported in these meetings, apart from sponsoring companies, Bayer, Novartis, Johnson& and Johnson, Myriad Genetics, Helix, and Blue Earth Diagnostics. We thank them, but we don't count out to them. So let's begin. I don't think we have any new people tonight, so we will start off with Rick.
Hello, everybody, and everybody who's listening or will listen to the recording. I thought I'd just start off with that because we looked at some stats this week, and we had 33,000 views on our YouTube channel, of which about half came from prostate cancer. What's interesting is that the average view time, which usually isn't that much on YouTube, was 25 minutes for the advanced group, but for the low intermediate group, it was 39 minutes, which is pretty amazing. So you people out there who watch us, we know you may drop off a little quickly on this group, but the low intermediate guys don't. And we will actually be starting to record the active surveillance group within a couple of weeks. And we're also going to record Jim Marshall's vets, and a big shout out to Colonel Boykin and to help us do that. Two housekeeping items and a quick story. Most of the people that I'm looking at here, I think, have been generous and made a donation, and we really appreciate it. But for those who might be listening to the recording and the people in the room who haven't, we know you get an awful lot from these groups, which we give you with a very gracious heart. But it's kind of nice to see the gratitude come back, not just with notes, and we get some lovely notes, but with a small donation, with a donation of any size. I shouldn't say small, because we've gotten some very big donations. David Muslin has done an amazing job through his circle of friends in helping us out. We've done equally well from the people in AnCan, but the participation rate is really low. It's like 7 or 8%, and we know that we're helping more than 1 in 10 people. So if you haven't made a donation yet, and it's the only time of year that we ask, we'd ask you to consider making that donation this month. We're doing great on the survey. We're up to 430 people. We're starting to organize how we're going to analyze the information. We will definitely be doing something prostate cancer specific. We'll also be doing something more general on the overall impact of support groups. We hope that we'll be able to present this at various medical conferences. Next month is the GU ASCO conference in San Francisco. We're not there this year, but we sure hope to have a poster there next year, amongst other places. And the last thing I want to tell you is this amazing story, AnCan story that came about last week. I received an email from one of our pancreas cancer moderators with some information on how to diagnose pancreas cancer that was patient-centric. It came out of an art magazine. And I thought it was very helpful because pancreas cancer is very deadly and it's very hard to identify. So I circulated it to we have a distribution to people that have inherited mutations, and in particular BRCA. So I circulated it to our BRCA brothers, and I mentioned that it had been sent to me by Laurie Singer, and Laurie Singer was the first ever woman baseball announcer. She announced for many years on NBC and ABC. She was an Olympic announcer and goodness knows what. And she was also married to a fantastic journalist on Nightline that some of you may remember called Leroy Sievers. And Leroy Sievers died in 2008 of colorectal cancer. So I mentioned this and sent it out. And within about an hour, I got an email back from one of the guys on the distribution who has attended this group, a younger guy. And he said to me, Leroy Sievers was a total inspiration to me. In fact, in 2008, I started a blog. And one of the reasons I started it was because I'd been following Leroy Sievers' cancer blog. And his voice was an incredible inspiration. So here we are 17 years later, and we're closing this circle. The irony of this fellow's blog was that, and he doesn't, it's not publicly available anymore, but he sent it to me, his blog was called Dead Man Walking. At the time that he chose that name and why he chose it, he didn't know that he carried germline BRCA. So it's all very a little eerie and pretty amazing. So that's the story I wanted to tell you. I'm going to hand it back to Ben, and we'll get on with the meeting.
So Rick, I'm going to ask you a rhetorical question that some of the men may be thinking. So earlier, I thanked all of these pharma companies for helping support our call, and some of the people who are not contributing may be thinking, well, why should I contribute if we're getting this sponsorship? How would you explain to those people that we still need money?
Well, first of all, we cannot rely on the pharma companies. So what we got last year doesn't mean that we're going to get it again this year. And we'll be meeting with several of those pharma companies in San Francisco at GU ASCO. It depends how gracious they are. We really rely on our grassroots support. And it would be far more comfortable if we knew that we could get money from our grassroots people every year to keep our doors open, rather than the more whimsical pharmaceutical companies who are here one year and not here the next. For example, Pfizer. We don't get any money from Pfizer right now. Even though they were one of the first to support us, they say it's because they don't support virtual events, but they made an exception during COVID, so they gave us money during COVID. I'm not sure I believe them. But whatever it is, why do we need you to support us? Because we're the ones that use our program services, and we need to know that you're there for us, just like we're there for you. I see that my fundraising chair, Mr. Muslin, has his hands up, so I'll let him have a shot at that one too.
Yeah, I just want to say, listen, we all know the value that we get out of AnCan, and we're not saying make thousands of dollars of donations. $50, $25, $100, whatever you can afford is appreciated. So we just want to keep these programs going. And for me personally, I think it's very important that AnCan survives beyond all of us, that it's here for the next generation. And that's what we'd like to see, and just to make this organization strong enough from a financial standpoint that it can withstand anything. And so whatever anybody can give is appreciated. It's also a pat on the back that feels good, but we can use the dough because we want this organization to live on. Thank you.
Yeah, and just one other thing I would add is that the sponsors look at how much money we're getting from our participants as well. That they don't want to be carrying all the load.
Right. Yeah. Thanks, Rick. I think
Thank
that
you. Thanks for the question.
now to Dr. A. I'm, I'm Dr. John. Both.
I'm used to being first in line because when I was a kid, my last name started with A, and the teachers did everything in alphabetical order back then, which was awful. Well, here's my question. This is sort of a WWBD question. What would Ben Nathanson do? But I'm a grade group 5 metastatic, diagnosed 5 years ago. ADT brought me down to a practically zero testosterone level, and despite being off it for a couple of years, I'm still very, very low in testosterone and have the symptoms that all of you are very familiar with. So I was complaining about this to my oncologist, and they said, we can put you on testosterone. So what they do is that as I talk to them, they have a handful of people, not a large number, but men who are just utterly sick and tired of being having castrate symptoms and are willing to go, and they put them on testosterone gel. They also happen to have a BAT suppressor cell study going on. I don't think I'd be eligible for that, but anyway, it seems dangerous to me. I was just wondering what you guys think or what you would do in a case like this where they're offering to put me on T replacement.
Well, the one person to huddle with, and I think you might have just dropped out last week before we got to him, is Harry Spieler, because he had exactly the same question. Exactly.
Uh-huh.
And he was supposed to be seeing his oncologist, the infamous Maha Hussein, last week. And he was going to come back and report to us, but I don't see him with us tonight. And so if you don't have his email, I'll definitely connect you with him, and that'll give you some insight as to what Dr. Hussein thinks. But we have a bunch of hands up, so I'll go back to Ben.
Before we go to somebody else, did Harry actually do it?
No, he's exactly in the same place as you.
Yeah.
Harry
Okay, I
Peters?
think Gary was first.
Yeah. No, but we can't hear you. We can hear only a hiss.
Call in, Gary. Leave your photo, leave your camera on, and call in on the phone.
We'll hold your place in line. Um, Don Rogers, what was your
Yeah,
you want?
I've had this same thought. I've done a lot of research into it too. I just got done with my 82 years of ADT, 1st of June, and I want my libido back. I really do. My testosterone, as measured last week, it's up to 290. So at this point in time, I'm just going to let time go by. But I've done a lot of research as far as testosterone replacement, and I can find no science whatsoever that taking testosterone after ADT is like pouring gas on a fire. It just doesn't exist. You want to be carefully monitored, but I think the overwhelming thought today is that there's really No science suggests it's going to cause a recurrence of the cancer.
Jeff, your hand is up.
Thanks, Don.
Yeah, and the most logical thing is to just get your PSA checked maybe every month for a few months, maybe every other month. And if it starts to rise, you know you have to do something. It's that's really the only factor you have to take into account if you do it. Unless you want to get PET scans.
Dr. Jeff, you want to weigh in?
Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, so some of the studies I've read actually tout using high dose testosterone as opposed to low dose testosterone as replacement after treatment for adequate treatment for prostate cancer. I'm wondering the same thing, John. When I finish in August, I'm tired of being tired, and if I don't rebound, I'm going to have a conversation in my next visit in March with the oncologist about going on higher dose testosterone replacement after I finish the 2 years of ADT.
Do you mean in the sequence of bipolar androgen therapy or in the sequence of steady maintenance? Steady
So
replacement.
yeah, it was steady. It was steady replacement.
Yeah.
And I think it's a smart idea, as Jeff said, follow the PSA.
So when you say steady replacement, Jeff, do you do it until your testosterone reaches an acceptable level and then stop, or you take it for the rest of your life?
Well, I think if you're taking replacement, your testosterone probably won't go up naturally because, again, you're in that feedback, where you'd block your FSH and LH. So you probably have to take replacement um, until or if something negative happened.
So when you say high dose, you mean physiological dose, higher than the body would ordinarily have?
Well, I mean, I can pull the article or articles I've been looking at and share them, but the studies they did divided into two groups.
Um, uh, um, I can't see who that is.
It's Gary. So Gary, you need to close off your sound on your computer.
Must be him on caller 02, huh?
Yes.
How does high dose get delivered?
It
This
can
was
be shots or topical. What were you going to say, Jeff?
no, this was
Yeah.
topical that I read. Gel.
So I'm sorry, I was distracted with the end of what you just said, Jeff.
That it was topical gel.
Oh, no, before that, before the sound.
So I'll pull the articles where they tell you what low dose is called, what dose is called low, what dose is called high. But the people who seemed to do better were people that got higher levels of testosterone. I mean, the way I look at it, and of course we've discussed this, where people have been, as part of their treatment, have gotten it. It's like you overwhelm the cancer with the testosterone. A little amount is helps it grow, but a larger amount kind of overwhelms it and doesn't let it grow.
But that's intermittent. That's not continuous. I mean, I'm not sure of the health implications of taking a high dose, a supraphysiological dose of testosterone for the rest of your life.
Well, I don't know if it's super physiologic. It's high in comparison to what the low dose people got.
Okay.
But I'll pull the article and I'll
Yeah,
send it.
that'd be very interesting. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Len Sierra.
Thanks, Ben. So, John, I assume you've been on a drug holiday and your testosterone is not coming back. Is that the reason why you're asking?
Yeah, almost 2.5 years, and not recovered. Well, a tiny bit recovered. I had T levels when I was still on leuprolide of non-detectable 14, 20, something like that. I came up to about 50 and stalled.
Yeah, I would think that taking a testosterone replacement is really no different than going on a drug holiday for a certain individual and then having their T levels naturally rise. What would be the difference between that and a testosterone supplement? I don't know. Like when I had stopped when I was on a drug holiday, testosterone rose to 400. So, what would be the difference between that and someone else whose T level isn't naturally rising? Take a supplement and get it up there. I don't can't imagine what the difference would be. Now, I think Dr. Jeff, what you're talking about sounds an awful lot like bipolar androgen therapy, which I think they're, as Ben mentioned, I think they're now actually calling it supraphysiologic testosterone therapy, which is kind of uh, intermittent high dose, like a bolus testosterone. But those people are usually on an ADT drug at the same time, if I recall correctly. Is that right, Rick or John or Ben?
I think that is right, but they are, I think, by definition, castrate resistant,
Yeah, right. That's true.
which I'm
It's only
probably
approved for.
not. I mean, I don't know if I am or not. I'm probably not castrate resistant because it's almost as if I'm still on ADT. T levels very low, PSA levels very low.
Yeah.
I don't think they're on ADT because they alternate with when the ADT is expiring or has expired, then that's when they give you the testosterone, and then they give you another shot in it for however long, 1 month, 3 months, and then they alternate that way. So the idea is that when they're giving you the testosterone, you're not getting any type of hormone therapy. There's no
Um,
underlying hormone therapy continuing right the way through. But we have you can easily check. There's a
Yeah.
lot of literature, and we have a presentation from Denmead from a few years ago, and I'll put that link for the BAT in the website. There's also a really good patient-centric article by Antanarakis and Denmead, which I can find and put in the chat window.
Gary Peters, your hand's been up.
We have to unmute Gary.
Gary has to unmute himself.
Oh, okay.
Star 2 on your phone. Oh, oh, you've unmuted um, you've unmuted your
okay.
computer and not your phone. I'm going to mute your computer again because we can't hear you at all. So unmute. press *2 on your phone. Okay. Okay. Um, sorry, Gary. If Collins, your hand is up.
Okay, John, you're currently unhappy in your present state. Go ahead and take.
Yeah, this stinks.
Yeah, yeah. So, hey, don't live in fear, man. Go ahead. Live your life and take it. And get your testosterone and just live your life. And don't worry about it. Just keep it checked, keep the PSA checked, and just don't live in fear.
Geez, I thought all you guys would run screaming out of the room when I mentioned you taking testosterone, but the opposite is happening. It scares me.
My testosterone is back up to 550, and I'm worried. I was worried sick when it kept rising and kept rising. But my
Yeah.
PSA is not detectable, and I'm just living my life, man. I'm just going on.
Wow.
And I've been on a drug holiday for what? About a year. It was a year in December, and it's already 550. And I'm not worried about anything. I'm living. I don't have time to worry about things. I'm living.
You
Kind
you
of.
ready to give up that electric bike and go back to no power, Cliff? Or
Oh yeah. The electric bike is up on the shelf. I don't play with it anymore. Back on the regular bike. I'm
Wow.
cycling indoors now. I'm cycling indoors. It just snowed, so I'm cycling indoors.
Okay.
Go for it, John.
Thanks, Cliff. Thomas?
Yeah, hello. We're talking about testosterone. I remember a few meetings back, somebody was asking about artificial testosterone. I don't remember where the discussion went. But is that what you're talking about today? Is this artificial testosterone, or is there some other kind of testosterone?
This is external, artificial, if you want, because it's not being made by me, what we would call exogenous testosterone, made in a lab and given by a shot or a skin gel.
Okay, yeah, good. All right, thanks for clearing that up for me.
Jeff Wood.
It sounds like you really want to do this.
Oh, I'm scared to.
Yeah. Len's logic is really good. I mean, what's the difference between what Cliff's going through and what you're,
Yeah,
artificial or not?
yeah. It would be as if I was making my own, I suppose, right?
Yeah. Go for it. Blaze the trail.
Well,
Jim Marshall.
John, anyway, I got a question. What do you think you will achieve out of this?
I think what I'm looking for is to feel more vigorous again, and reverse the muscle wasting that I have. I don't hardly recognize my body much anymore. I guess mostly that. Yeah, feel sexual.
Oh, okay. So, do you have a plan for the muscle wasting? In other words, are you hitting the gym, pumping iron, 3 days a week and all that stuff? You got all that set up, all set to go?
It's been going. Yeah, I do have a little trouble. I mean, I know that people whose bones are thinning and who have uh, muscle wasting for other reasons, that it's important to have protein in your diet, maybe even 1.5 times the normal requirement for protein. It's a little hard for me because I'm mostly vegan to get enough protein, but I've been doing my very best especially since noticing muscles being smaller to try to get that protein. I am doing some form of exercise, maybe 6 days a week, and maybe a couple of those, three of those are with weights or bands. So I'm trying to give my muscles every opportunity to not atrophy anymore. My latest DEXA scan shows another decrease in bone density, but not to the point quite of osteopenia yet, which is nice.
Okay, great.
Not to the point of osteopenia or
N-
osteoporosis.
Not to the point of either one yet.
Wow.
Excellent. Excellent.
But
Wow.
I'm going to every 2 years. It's thinner, but it's not to osteopenia. I think I started in pretty good shape for bone density.
Yeah, cool. So Luther,
Hey, so I was on testosterone replacement before all this, and urology was not concerned about it. Their impression was it takes very low levels of natural testosterone to fuel prostate cancer, like 100, I can't remember the units. It's like
Yeah.
NG over DL, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
really? Low levels?
Pretty
Yes.
low levels. They've changed their thinking recently to kind of a saturation model where it's kind of asymptote
Yeah.
or whatever. Sorry, the
So it
ADT
saturates
does
at
mean I
80,
can't
90.
come up with those words very quickly. So
Asymptote.
yeah, so they weren't super worried about it. I would tell you a couple things, John. I felt best with moderate levels, like 600-ish. I was at a men's clinic at first where they put me up at like 1200, and then you got to do like estrogen control and things like that. Low moderate, you're going to feel the best. And the shots were not a big deal, and it's cheap. I wouldn't mess with the gel on those topicals. If you're going to do it, I would just get the shots with insulin needles, do it in your upper arms, and make sure you get stuff tested. I can't imagine how the guys on BAT feel decent because if they're getting a huge dose once a month, those swings have to make them really not feel well.
They must be Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hydes. We did have a guy in group here a year ago that was on bat therapy. I don't really think we got too much information about it, what it was like for him, but we've had one guy at least. Rick will know if we have more.
Yeah, we've had at least 3, and the problem is that it's always been a protocol of last resort. So by the time the guys get to a BAT, they're pretty sick, and so it doesn't have much durability,
Yeah.
the BAT, and that's always been the problem.
that's really interesting, Luther. Thank you. By the way, I appreciate everybody using the raise hands feature. It makes it really much easier to call on people. Gary Ann, speaking of hands feature.
There we go. Mic is off. The question I had is, it seems like the discussion invests the PSA reading as sort of the definitive measure of disease progression. And my question is that well deserved? I mean, I know certainly elevated PSA is a hallmark of the disease, but is it also as time goes on and as different therapies are tried, does that continue to be the principal indicator on which clinicians rely exclusively or primarily?
Well, it's not the principal indicator because it's perfect, I can tell you that. It's got limitations as a biomarker for sure. And yes, in advanced cancer, sometimes you don't even make much PSA. So I think you're right about that. You're relying on PSA to answer a question that it's not perfectly made to answer. I mean, there's always PET scanning to complement the PSA. I can't really get my oncologist to combine PSA monitoring with PET scanning as I've been on my treatment holiday, but there's a number of papers that suggest that it would be a good complement, and maybe if I did anything that seems risky like this, that would be a good thing to add, Gary.
I want to point out, and Len should jump in here. He's got something else to say as well. That the Armstrong work from a couple of years ago makes it very clear that scanning must accompany PSA if you have advanced cancer. PSA alone is an insufficient measure. Regular scans are required.
Yeah.
Len?
If it's not the cost of the PET scan, what about just a bone scan and an MRI?
I'd rather have a PET scan if somebody will pay for it.
Yeah, well, bone scan
Yeah.
would catch them.
Bone scans cheap.
Len, you want to come in and talk about that? The scanning and the type of scanning.
Oh, yes. As I guess John stated, in advanced cancers, sometimes the cells transform and they no longer produce PSA. So that's not an accurate monitor. You need to do periodic CT or MRI scans or PSMA. But even PSMA, sometimes the advanced cancer patients don't produce PSMA. We wonder if Kang is going through this now. His PSA was over 5, and nothing is showing up on PSMA scans or FDG scans. So, you need to be a little creative and do a CT scan, an MRI scan, something other than the traditional PSMA, PSA type of monitoring.
Yeah, I think where we're moving to, and I guess some of this has come up in terms of working with Kang and what I've been reading, is that I think more and more what we're going to see is a use of ctDNA. I mean, ctDNA is now quite a common protocol for other types of cancer to check how much cancer is in your system after you've been through treatment. It's actually being used to see how much cancer is in your system during treatment to make sure the treatment is effective. And I think that as this technology improves, we're going to see more and more use of ctDNA as opposed to PSA. And if nothing is showing on any scans to supplement those negative scans.
So
ctDNA, by the way, is these are the little snips of DNA that are running around your blood system that are breaking off from the tumor, and we can now collect them and we can see how much there is. And let Len feel free to point out what I'll point it out. I was wrong about the ADT stopping. The ADT does continue right through on the BAT.
Well, thanks, guys, for all your comments. And kind of a lot of encouragement from what I get from this to help balance out my anxiety about waking up a sleeping tiger.
Jeff Wood had one more thought.
I just following up on what you said, Rick. How do they gather that DNA, and what's that test?
It's a blood test. They're able to extract the DNA from your blood. How they do it, I don't know. Ben probably does, but I don't think we have time to get into it today. But if you talk to him nicely, maybe he'll write something either on his blog or in an introduction as to how SNPs are gathered from the blood, SNPs and cells. But I asked the question just the other day, what about CTC? And I was told that it's harder to gather the whole cells than it is to gather the SNP, the little fractions of DNA that they call SNPs. Ben will tell you what SNP stands for. What does SNP stand for, Ben?
No, that is something else. That's a mutation. Um, I'm blanking on it. Um,
I'll find it and put it in the chat window.
It's single
yeah,
nucleotide. I forget the P now. I got two of them.
yeah. But that's the idea. It's the kind of mutation, Rick. It's when a single one of the DNA nucleotides is swapped for another.
This is Gary Newell again. Len, did the exchange of correspondence we had over the course of the past week sort of indicated to me that I think the bottom line was that the ctDNA was, as you put it, not deemed ready for prime time?
Well, that's what I read. Yeah, I guess it's difficult and expensive to do as a regular monitoring tool. So it's not in regular practice. That's why we were suggesting to Kang that he tell his doctors to do the ctDNA to monitor his disease progression, and they wouldn't do it, and then we kind of realized, well, maybe that's why they're not doing it, because it's too expensive.
Well, yeah, but I think it is available. It may not be covered, but Signatera is offering it, and for some cancers, it has been already FDA approved. But I don't necessarily think that's true in prostate cancer. But I can tell you that yes, it is ready for prime time. It may not be the most recent. There are two. Signatera is one, and there's one other company that's doing it as well. Signatera is really interesting because what they do is they take blood from you, or they take a tumor sample from you, and then they personalize the test for you to when they collect. They know what they're looking for by taking the tumor sample, if that makes sense.
Well, bottom line is if I go for it, I'm going to have to insist on putting in a lot more monitoring than I'm getting right now, which is just quarterly PSAs. Well, thanks everybody for your comments and encouragement. I'm going to leave the meeting at 5 and go check out this Dean Ornish seminar. I'll let you all know if it's any good.
Thank you, John. Great question. This is certainly going to be the editor's pick for the write-up tomorrow. Thank you, everybody, too, for the great feedback. So it looks like Dan is next.
Great. I haven't spoken in a while. I did my January blood test, and my PSA is down to undetectable 0.0.1 or 0.01. The question I have is there any documented evidence or research that's going on in the linkage between abiraterone or even Lupron and arthritis, how it could impact arthritis. And maybe that's what John was referring to in some of his earlier comments.
Any thoughts?
Well, I'm surprised no one else has jumped in, and I don't know a heck of a lot about this, but we certainly know that pain, muscle aches and joint issues are associated with ADT by suspending testosterone. I don't know technically why, um, but yes, there is. Whether the abiraterone exacerbates that or not, I don't know. But maybe who's aware of issues around joint and muscle pain from ADT? Maybe we can go from there.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know the cause either, Rick, but it's certainly a symptom of ADT. And Dan, are you taking any statins? Because that can also cause joint pains.
Well, that's a good question. I've always had high cholesterol, and my doctor has wanted me to get on statins years ago, and I rejected because I'll be on them forever. So I'm checking my cholesterol in different ways, with diet and exercise. But I'm reluctant to go on statins.
We've talked about statins a lot in here recently, and in fact, we spoke about it last week, and there's evidence that it is actually very positive. I know there are hands up, but I'm going to invoke Dr. Jeff because he switched his mind when he read the evidence. Dr. Jeff?
Yeah, the papers talk about benefits benefits against the growth of the tumor cells being on statins because of the suppression of cholesterol and the role of cholesterol for the synthesis of testosterone. So I went back on the uh, statin. I went off it because of some side effects, but it just seemed so strong that I should be on statins.
Thanks.
What were your side effects, Jeff?
So, Len, it's so hard because you're on all these drugs.
Yeah.
You're on Lupron, you're on abiraterone, you're on prednisone, you're on statins, you're on other medications, diuretics for hypertension, and everything. You're tired, you have a headache, your muscles hurt, your joints bother you. I mean, it's so hard to pinpoint what's doing what. I just thought, you know what? I'll get off it. My diet is very good. I'll get off it, and I'll see how my uh, cholesterol and triglycerides are. But the papers I read, it said you, men with in our boat, statins could be very beneficial.
Yeah.
And I don't feel worse going back on it, so I'm staying on it.
Okay.
Thanks, Dr. Jeff.
Luther, you have your hand up.
I believe joint pain is associated with low estrogen, and since we make estrogen, actually technically it's called estradiol from testosterone, and we have neither. I believe that's a mechanism why ADT can cause more joint pain. I know it was a topic. It's kind of back on the testosterone replacement topic as well, because you would track both when you're on that, and if you had too much estradiol, they would give you estrogen suppressant, and if that got too low, then your joints would be on fire all the time. So I think it's the estrogen, but I'm not sure. And then didn't we have someone a week or two taking the estrogen patch, and I think that was one of the things that felt better.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
So it's joints and not just bone density?
It's joints.
I don't know. I mean, the question is specifically about arthritis, and I have no idea, right? About that specifically. I know my shoulders are a lot more achy.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Marky?
Yeah, but just real quick, Dr. Jeff mentioned statins and the need for them, and I'm just wondering if you already have low cholesterol, not medium, low, always had low cholesterol, does it make sense taking a statin?
No, I'm the opposite. I've always had high cholesterol. That's
Oh.
why.
Yeah, mine has always been low, and it's but well, the osteoarthritis issue. 8 years on ADT, and my joints, a lot of joints, thumb, both hips, both knees, osteoarthritis. They tell me it's not in the family as far as I can tell. I don't know if the ADT gave it to me, but definitely causes aches and pains. Just a thought. I don't know if other people have ever run into it.
Are you on anything to address it?
The only thing that seems to address it is replacing the joints. I can't take ibuprofen, for example. Well, if somebody has an answer to address it without having surgery.
Jim Marshall?
Another thing to think about, anyway, I had the same thing, and I had cholesterol up until like into 2020 when they said, oh, 200 is perfectly okay, 198, et cetera, but then I finally had to put my foot down and I started taking statins, but in 2024 it was too late. Triple bypass, 99% blockage, 90% blockage, 90% blockage. And I never knew it until I was required to climb 22 stairs. And I made 8, and that was it. I had to stop because I could hardly breathe. So I would monitor that somehow. Other stairs, bicycle, exercise, volunteering, walking, no problems at all until I took the 22 stairs. So I would monitor that if you're not going to take a statin.
Thanks.
Thank you, Jim. Anyone else for Dan?
No, that's all I needed. Just that question. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Dan. Bob Schwartz, you're next.
Yeah, hi. I figured I'd start out with some good news first of all, besides feeling under the weather right now. In 2 months of just injection shots and pills, my PSA has dropped from 325 to 25.
Wow.
So I'm very happy about that. Yeah. The other thing I'd like to ask you, though, is he was talking about the shots with ADT and all that. I had a booster shot the other day for bone pain, and a booster shot for raising my white blood cells up. And it's the first time since I was on ADT or injections that I felt agonizing bone pain. I don't know if anybody's ever taken a booster shot. I can tell you the name of it. I probably will kill it when I say it. It's called, what's it called? It's called
Neurontin.
Now it's called it's FULPHILA. I don't know if you ever heard of that. The other name for it is pegfilgrastim.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Anybody else experience like pain with that?
Bob, I haven't had it, but it's certainly a known side effect of those white blood cell stimulators. There's a whole class of them, and they all can cause bone pain.
Yeah, because I'm on statins now and have been for several years. Not as long as you, Rick, but several years. And I was on it, no problems whatsoever going on this. But as soon as they gave me that shot, they said in 3 or 4 days it could hit you, and they weren't kidding. It hit me, and I was like, now, will they last with each shot, or will the pain go down when you get them?
I think it goes down, but I'm not speaking from personal experience. I've never had it. Do we have any guys here who were on chemo?
Not me, but my wife for her breast cancer, when she got her new Lasta shot for the white blood count,
I get the shots.
She had terrible joint pain. And so her oncologist recommended that she take a Claritin the day before, the day of, and the day after.
Yes.
And Amy did that, and no issues after that.
Yes.
Yeah, I take a Claritin every day, so I was already on it, and they'd advised me of that too. So, and I thought I was going to beat it, but apparently it decided to single me out. The other question I have for you is my red blood count seems to be low, my hemoglobin, my glucose. And anything like foods or anything you would recommend me trying to eat that would help raise it?
So, can I get it for a second? I got the bone shots. My first shot, man, it was killing me. I mean, I didn't want to do. I refused to do the next shot, but I was getting Xgeva. I don't know if it's the same thing. But
It's different.
I've gotten 3 more shots, and the pain is. I'm uncomfortable for all the drugs I'm on, and I'm not going to cry about it. I expect it. I take the drugs. I know the side effects, so I'm going to deal with them. But and the whole diet thing, man. I mean, you talk about. I went to blueberries, strawberries, the whole. No more meat. But anyway, I hope that might help you with the bone shock thing. I don't know if it's the same thing now.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Frank, the Xgeva is not the same as what Bob is talking about. Xgeva is a bone strengthener. What Bob is talking about, they're called white blood cell stimulators, which they give routinely, I believe, with chemo, because chemo will drive your white blood cell counts down and make you susceptible to infection. And also, Bob, you can expect, when being on ADT plus the chemotherapy, you can expect your white and red blood cell counts to go down. So that's typical. They'll come back.
How about my glucose level? Is there anything with that one?
What did you say? It was high?
Yes.
Well, again, hormonal drugs can cause your glucose to be elevated, so that they may stay elevated. You're not a diabetic?
No.
So your blood glucose may continue to stay high for as long as you're on hormonal therapy.
Okay, thank you. And I'd like to thank the group for everything, because without the help of certain individuals in the group, I wouldn't have the doctor that I have as my quarterback, and I'm very appreciative. And she takes care of things. Like other doctors didn't fill out the information to get prior approval first for medications or tests done. She told me right away, she said, I know what to do, and it'll be done. Well, guess what? I don't have to worry with her. And the booster shot I'd never heard of before from anybody else. She's the one that prescribed it. Everybody else had mentioned just different things. She makes me feel good. So I want to thank everybody that was involved in it. Len, Captain Jim, and Rick, and everybody else. You're very good. You might not give medical advice, but you help somebody get through this. So thank you.
Well, that's what we try to do. The T cell booster the white cell booster that you're getting, Philo, whatever it's called, which I have heard of, Philogrest. Sometimes they will put a little gizmo on your arm, Neurontin, which is a similar thing, and it automatically injects into you after a day. So there are different types, but it's very typical that they give you that. The one thing I do want to say to you, and I'm sure Dr. Guanciale will respond, is you got to get a palliative care doc on your team, because this is exactly the field for the palliative care. You call them up and you say, "Doc, or the nurse, I got bone pain from the white cell," and they know exactly what to do, because that's really their field. So ask Dr. Guanciale about, can you get a palliative care doc on your team to talk about symptom management.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Len, do you know how they handle palliative care at Florida oncology specialists or
No, I don't, Rick. I've never needed palliative care, so I have no experience.
Bob, make sure they understand you're talking about palliative care for symptom management, that you're not talking about end of life, because that, you're somebody at the front will pick it up and they'll think you're talking about end of life, which you're not. You're talking about palliative care for symptom management.
I'll do that. I want to make sure I clarify that.
Yeah. Otherwise, they'll be round in the morning with a hospital bed for the bedroom, for the living room.
Thank
God
you.
forbid.
It's nice to laugh. Thank you.
So I have a technical problem. My screen is frozen, or all of you are frozen. I see myself move, and I can't use the controls. And I'm afraid if I get off this call, that I will stop the recording. But I think there is no choice.
I think you'll be fine, but I will watch the recording. And who's up next? And by the time I'll take over, and you'll be back in a jiffy.
Frank C is next. I'm open.
Frank C. Okay. Let's go, Frank C.
All right. So thank God I got my Medicare and got everything, all of that sorted out. So now I'm now being followed by the Ohio State James by a doctor called Dr. Yang. He's what do you call that? Genitourinary medical oncologist.
Genitourinary medical oncologist, a GU medical oncologist.
Yeah, so we got all of that taken care of. I mean, they asked me the other day about like I want to switch, and that my wife said, and I said, "You want me to be honest?" I was like, "Well, I'm not putting any other doctors down, but it was like going from like a hut to like the Sheridan, going to Ohio State University, man." So I'm happy as hell about that. But anyway, I just finished up my third. I mean, I'm getting ready to start my fourth round of Pluvicto. In 3 weeks at Ohio State. My PSA when I first started the Pluvicto was 200, and then now it's down after 3 treatments. It's down to 1.7. I mean, I'm working out. I'm doing everything. All my blood work is great. My white blood cells, my red blood cells, my phosphate, everything is great. I feel like I got an extension on life, and like I'm blessed. I mean, I'm been blessed, and I was dead 3 times. So I mean, what's the difference? I'm gonna come back one more time. That's what I got to say. But so that's my little report. Any questions?
Stephen Wade, your hand's up.
Oh, are you back? Are you back? Oh, he's back.
My hand was up for earlier.
Oh, okay.
Ben, did you hear that Frank's down to 1.2 from after his
1.7.
1.7 after his third Pluvicto of his fourth Pluvicto.
Yeah.
That's got to be like a record.
Yeah.
I hope so. Hey, Frank, maybe you should talk to your doctor.
What's
Frank, maybe you
that?
should talk to your doctor about, is it necessary to take your,
Yeah,
the next, what is it, 3 doses?
two.
Yeah,
Uh,
so
yeah,
we did
because my
talk
wife,
about that. So the
sorry?
goal is to get it to 0. And
Okay.
we talked about I'm going to finish the next 3 doses. And then if I mean they could stop at any time, but the plan is to go the next 3 doses, do all 6, get the PSA down to 0, possibly come off of drugs, and then be monitored obviously by Ohio State. They'll do like all the scans. He was talking about doing a tissue biopsy instead of the whatever I can't anyway. So I'm in good hands right now, and but we're gonna continue the next 3, and then hopefully get it down to 0. That's the plan.
I mean, I like Len's suggestion. Um, I'd push Yang a little bit on it because um, it may well be smart to keep a couple of these Pluvictos in your back pocket. If you've finished 3 right now, is that correct, Frank?
Yes.
I would look at it after 4, and if your PSA has gone further down, we know other people that have held those other 2 back, rather than going all the way down. And it's something that he should be discussing with his colleagues,
Okay.
because people are doing that now. They're tending to do it. It's both for your sake, in terms of how you feel and how you're tolerating everything, and also for future treatment, for the purpose of not that you can't do a second round of, and we know people
Right.
that have done that, but it may not be that easy. And we may want to start you on a Pluvicto. We've got 2 left in reserve, and whilst we're getting the approval, so there are reasons to do it. There's no real logic to why the number 6 was chosen. That's just what they put in for the trial.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
some people respond really well, and they do fine after 4. Other people need all 6.
Right. Yeah, so we're considering that, obviously. I mean, we did talk about more Pluvicto in the future, and I'm aware that this is just part of my journey. I've heard guys that they have their PSA real high, and then they're on Pluvicto and it gets real low, and then they come off for a year and then it gets bad again.
Yep.
So I'm aware of that, and so maybe that's a good thing to keep 2 back. They're talking about trial drugs and everything now, so I'm not sure, and I mean, Dr. Yang, and I don't know, he's got that other big shot there at OSU, and they're going to go to the tumor board and talk about everything. I'm sure they'll bring that up.
Okay. The guy that we know is Montezavi, is the guy that
Yeah,
we with most there, Dr. Montezavi,
right.
which
So he's
reminds
he's
me,
the head of it.
right, which reminds me, we have to check up on Frank Fabish because we haven't seen him for a while, and
Yeah,
I'm putting a note on my desk to do that tomorrow.
yeah. So anyway, that's it. I'm living. I'm happy. Yeah. I ain't
You're
Mark,
nothing
playing your
else.
guitar. Are you playing your guitar?
Oh man, you see, bro, I got a jam room in my basement, man. I retired. I did construction all my life. I demoed my basement. I built me a jam room, and we're starting a new band. We've been working on it for about 5 months. So yeah, I'm hoping to be playing out again. That's. I just bought a new car. I mean, I got my grandkids. I mean, I ain't stopping. You know. I mean, what do you want me to say?
I love
I
it.
mean,
I
my
love it,
oldest son
Frank.
retired from the Navy SEALs, and I can't say that team he was on, but hey, so the apple doesn't fall too far from that tree, I guess. I don't know. Some guys can, I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, I'm happy. Thank God.
Jim Marshall?
Bring the light.
Frank, do you have mutations at all? Any of them?
No. I don't know what you're talking about, mutations, but
We don't know, Jim. That's why
Oh,
we're
okay.
gonna that's why he's gonna get the tumor tested. They're
Ah,
gonna do
good.
that testing. That's what he said earlier.
I
Yeah.
was curious. I was curious if he had ATM, because I understand ATM, and I got ATM, so I'm very interested in
That
folks
gene?
that might have. Yes, the ATM mutation.
I think I do. My wife really knows everything about it. I'm just a dumb guy going along for the ride. But I mean,
You do. I've got it.
I
I've got
do.
it here.
I do, because
I've
the
got it.
Pluvicto is in my favor.
Right.
You know,
You've
and I'm
got
going
it
to claim
here.
that. You know.
Gardner
Anyway.
showed a somatic ATM, and yes, you're absolutely right. Pluvicto favors ATM.
All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Frank and I are brothers in this one.
All right, man. And you're
But I am
military.
the younger brother. You're the older brother.
Hey, you might be old. I'm older than you. You saying? Oh, you're younger than me, but guess what? I'm the better looking one.
Oh no, I am older,
I'm
but
just kidding. What's that?
within the progression of needing the Pluvicto, I am way behind you so far. So
Oh,
I am
yes.
younger.
Oh, I
but
understand
it's
that.
good to know the older brother, it helped you out.
Oh my God. Like night and day, man. I couldn't even walk 2 blocks before this.
Oh,
I
good.
mean, you couldn't even
Okay,
walk
great.
2 houses. Now I'm walking like 3-4 miles a day. Yeah. Starting to work out everything. Got a good wife.
That definitely puts you ahead of the game. So, next up is Artie from California.
Hello?
There you go.
Hey, first question. I have a radiation shot coming up in about a week, and the doctor gave me some bicamulidide. Is that for the radiation shot coming up, or is that the treatment, part of the treatment? What is that medicine she gave me?
Did you get any Lupron, did you say?
Huh?
You're just getting the bicalutamide? You're not
Yeah,
getting
she
any?
says, is that part of the Casodex or something like that? Is that part of that?
That's the same thing, yeah.
What is that for? What is that for?
They're not giving you any other drug?
Well, right now I'm just taking that one, and then I'm gonna get the radiation shot, and then after that I'll be taking the daramutilide or something like that.
No, it's not a radiation shot. You're going to get the Eligard, right?
No, I'm actually gonna have the Orvix, the pill form.
Okay, so if you get the Orgovix, you don't need the bicalutamide.
Okay.
So before you start taking that bicalutamide, check on how you're doing for the Orgovix. If I'm not mistaken, Captain Jim, it's not hard to get Orgovix at the VA. My understanding is that they will give you Orgovix without you've just got to ask for Orgovix.
Yeah.
Okay, if you get the Orgovix, you don't need the bicalutamide. If you get the Eligard shot, it's not a radiation shot, Artie. That's a hormone therapy shot.
Okay, I get that. But if I take the Orgovix, I still have to get the Eligard shot, or is that
No.
in place of
You
it?
either take Orgovix, which is a pill, or you get the Eligard shot preceded by about 10 to 15 days of the bicalutamide or Casodex. That's the same thing.
Okay, got it. Okay, that's what I was confused about.
Okay. So if you're going to get if she's going to give you the Orgovix, which they should give you at the local VA, don't mess with the bicalutamide.
Okay.
or Casodex. Casodex is the commercial name, bicalutamide is the generic name.
Okay.
If, on the other hand, you are going to you are going to get the Eligard shot, you better start the bicalutamide.
Got it. Got it. Okay. My next question is, if I had somatic testing and germline, my germline showed I had no hereditary, but is it possible that in the somatic testing they can't find nothing because she said they couldn't find no genes that was mutated on my somatic? Is that possible? Where they don't find nothing in your somatic testing? Yes, I see a lot of people shaking yes. I was hoping. So it is possible then. They can where it can't find nothing. Because I was hoping they could find what's the best treatment for me.
Go ahead,
Very
Ben.
common not to have any mutations, Artie.
It's common? Okay.
Very common not to have mutations. It's only a minority of guys will have what we call actionable mutations, mutations that for which we have drugs, that can help. But it's a minority of people.
Okay, got it.
I mean, you got mutations for sure, but there's nothing. We don't know which ones they are or what we can do about them. So a lot of guys have mutations. It look like they have no mutations, but it's just that they don't show up on the tests because the tests are only looking for mutations that we can do something about.
Got it. And I think I got this question answered before, but once I'm on stage 4, because I guess metastasizing my bones, if I'm on medication for the rest of my life, would it be possible to take a drug holiday sometimes, or am I just on it for the rest of my life? Like, would I be able to take a holiday sometimes? Has anybody done that? Oh, you have?
Yeah.
Oh, so it is possible then. Okay.
Yeah, Ben. Well, maybe you can answer Artie more fully.
Oh, let's let one of the guys who's been on the holiday talk about it.
Okay.
One of you guys who waved his hand. You want to talk about your holiday?
Oh, well, I've had 4 drug holidays in the past 10 years, Artie.
Mm.
So
4? You're stage 4?
Stage 4, bone metastases. Yeah.
Okay. How did that work out? Because I'm nervous about this going back on these medications, and because right now I got my strength back, I'm working out, I feel good, and man, it sucks having to go back on this stuff. How did that work out when you had to go back on it and off on and off and on and all that?
Well, you feel good when you're on the drug holiday, and then when you have to go back on, when your PSA rises, and they do scans, and they say, well, you have another couple of bone mets. That's a risk. But even if you don't take a drug holiday, if you stay on the medication for many years, it could cause the cancer to transform into something that you can't treat anymore. So you might as well take the drug holiday and feel good for a few years.
So in your case, so when you was on the medication, how long before you took the drug holiday? Was it like you did it for a year, 6 months, then took the holiday, or how did that work out?
Well, yeah. So the first drug holiday I had was only 7 months. The second one was 28 months. And the third one was about 1 year. And the fourth one, I'm still on it. So it's, about 3 months.
So the first time you took the meds, how long was it before you took the drug holiday? Were you taking the meds for 6
Well,
months? How
well,
long?
what has to happen for what you want to happen first is you want your PSA to become undetectable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they'll say, well, okay, it looks like, you're in remission, so we can put you on a drug holiday, let your testosterone rise, let you, build your muscles back up, build your bone strength, all that good stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. And one more thing, cancer is not.
So hold on a minute, Artie. Don't get ahead of yourself.
Okay.
As soon as you get on there and you see your PSA go down to undetectable, you're not ready to come off of the hormone therapy, of the darolutamide and the Orgovyx. you have to stay down there for a while, maybe a year, maybe 18 months, maybe even 2 years, because we're really trying to nail that cancer. So
Yeah.
it's not, well, as soon as we get it down, we come off and then it rises, we go back on again. That's not the process.
Okay.
This process, if it works out well for you, which we hope it will probably mean that that your first go round, now you're going to be on for at least 18 months up to 36 months, somewhere between the 18 and 36 or 18 and 30 months. That's how long. Set your sights. Don't be coming in here, after 6 months and saying, guys, can I get off of my hormone therapy yet? We're going to say, no, you got to stay with it.
Oh man, dude.
Okay, because I think I know where you're going with this. You got to set your expectations right. Most guys who are on drug holiday, if not every guy who's on drug holiday, has done at least 18 months, if not more, before they started talking about a drug holiday.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, good point.
One more question. I know cancer isn't.
Wait. Jim has his hand up.
Okay.
Artie, at the time you start this exercise will be very key. I did it for 5 years before now I am 29 months, into the holiday. But during the 5 years, I was exercising on the bike essentially every day, out there, cutting the grass, raking, all of that stuff. And it really helped. It really helped because the body will attempt to convince you that you are tired. So I happened to fight that, and I went out and exercised. And the more I exercised, the better I felt. And I would keep that up every day. And if I slacked off for 2 days, the body would say, you are tired again. So that is extremely important.
Okay. And one more question. I know I be seeing stuff on like YouTube about this and that. There's no cure for cancer, right? Like, there's this guy, and I know it's probably hogwash, but there's this guy named what's that guy? I forget what they're talking about. How you say it? Ivermectin. Does that help at all with cancer? Is there any cures for cancer, or is it just nothing?
No, that's a hoax.
It's a hoax.
Let's be blunt here. Ivermectin doesn't do anything. If you're a Gleason 9, which I think you are, right?
I don't know what that Gleason 9
Well, anyway, once you have metastases to the bone, general consensus, medical consensus, is that you're not curable, but you are treatable.
Okay.
And you just try and hang in there, until they maybe come up with a better treatment that might be curative, or let's not use the word cure, let's just say it'll keep you alive long enough so that you'll probably die of something else.
Yeah.
But there's no cure as of now, there's no cure for metastatic prostate cancer.
And any guys in this group, I know you can't answer this, but what's the average, if there is an average amount of lifetime for stage 4? Do guys live 5 years, 10 years, 1 year? It just doesn't matter? Or is there an average amount of time, an average amount? Does guys live 20 years?
Day by day.
Huh?
Everybody's
Rick?
different.
Shouldn't he be doing the
Rick,
nomograph?
we've had guys, right? 20
Yeah,
years, more than 20 years.
We've had guys who have lasted less than a year and guys who have lasted more than 20 years.
Yeah,
so everybody's different. When you ask your doc that question, a good doc is going to avoid it. A bad doc is going to tell you something like 7 years, 5 years, or 7 years.
Yeah.
We don't know. We don't know because each person responds differently, Artie. So you're doing great. You're probably going to be around for a long time based on how you've done after your first treatment. We know you didn't come out your first treatment and immediately have to have runaway cancer. It's taken a while to get to where it is now. We don't know how you're going to respond going forward, and you're on the first level of treatment, and there's a lot more levels to go. So I would, I think you got to get your focus away from your longevity at this point in time. As easy it is as it is to fall into that trap. There are two hands up. They may want to talk to you about longevity. One of them is somebody who's 80 years old. So, oh no, he's taking his hands down now. But Steve L, go ahead.
Yes, yes, and I'm de novo metastatic, and I was actually very pleased to recently see some statistics on the 20-year survival rate being about 5%. And, I thought that was a great number. I've always been in the top 5%, so I plan to continue that with cancer too.
Love it.
And
Yeah, Rick, wouldn't it be appropriate to recommend that he do that nomograph out of Sloan just to get some perspective?
No, no. The Sloan nomogram is the one that I'm thinking of is really a nomogram that's helpful to determine how likely your cancer is to come back after you've had surgery. We know that Artie's cancers come back. So now, are there other nomograms? Probably, but I can't tell you right away where they are. Somebody in the group might have a nomogram that they want to suggest. But I don't have one, Dan. But that MSKCC nomogram that we used with you is for a different purpose.
Right. Thanks.
That's it. Thank you.
thanks, Artie.
And I tell Artie to have encouragement. I had cancer all through my body when they discovered it 9 years ago, in my bones, all of them, shoulders, joints, everything. I think working out is the key. I have a personal trainer. I try to work out 6 days a week. I feel good. I'm enjoying life. My year 9, my PSA is undetectable, near zero. I know it could change fast. I could be like in terrible trouble a year from now, but I don't know that. And I'm working out, and I'm really enjoying life. And I learned to, that everyday thing, but I also think, you're not right on the edge. When I first got sick, I went to cancer research. That research is old, it's like from 5 and 10 years before that. It shed like, 3 to 6 years. The doctor said, oh, maybe 3 years. I got rid of that doctor. Another doctor said, we don't know. We can't say. It's always changing. It's always getting longer. And each time they find another drug, I switch. I still have other options. Not for the big. I'm taking the usual combination like Lupron and darolutamide, like some combination you'll get to, but you think that you want to try to do your best right now and hope for 10, 20 good years, and maybe 5, 10 years from now, there'll be another 10, 20 good years. So you got to go ahead with your life as best you can. Don't try to put a number on it. Don't say, like, well, the average is 3 years, and I'm going to figure out how I'm going to do till I die 3 years from now. Just forget that. That's not going to happen. Probably. So be encouraged. I want to encourage you. Enjoying life as much as I ever have.
Yeah, good words.
Guess I'm lucky.
Jeff Wood, you're next.
An update and a question. The update is I just completed 9 months of being on Orgovix, and I am and I'm off it now after 9 months of being undetectable, and we'll see what happens in the next blood test in 3 months. Feels good to be off it, and I think Artie, you were talking about a holiday. I'm looking forward to that and feeling different. My question is, we talk sometimes about the PSMA, whether you're avid or not. Can they test the biopsy pieces for avid, and why don't if they could, why don't they do that as a rule?
Anybody want to answer that? I mean, my understanding is in principle they could. Though that might not be all the cancer in your body, however. That's just the one they know about. Um, so yeah, unfortunately it's not adequate. What you want is to find the stuff you don't know about, whether there are tumors that are not showing up and how you're going to biopsy them.
But wouldn't it be worth knowing upfront that you were avid or not avid, and then
But
be able to?
that's not a stable situation. You're avid now. As your cancer develops, you will become, it will change and you may very well lose the avidity.
Yeah.
It's not, an inborn trait, unfortunately.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Sort of. Thank you.
Yeah, right.
Well, yeah, I don't want to. I don't want to leave it at that, Jeff. We've had any number of men who don't show a result on a PSMA scan, and we don't necessarily know if it's because they don't produce PSMA or if they don't have any cancer. Now, the one person who springs to mind isn't here tonight is Dr. Jack. Dr. Jack went for years and years, couldn't get a result on a PSMA scan. But eventually he went up to, I think it happened at MSKCC, and I think they can test for PSMA in your blood, but it's not a commercial test, and it's not readily available. And it's easier to do a PSMA scan and see if anything shows. The problem is when nothing shows, like with somebody like Kang, and we don't know the reason why. So the protocol so far is generally to repeat the PSMA scans and maybe to do what we suggested for somebody like Kang, which is to run an FDG PET scan at the same time as a PSMA scan. So we can see if there's cancer growing that doesn't express PSMA. Ben's point is you can have some lesions that might express PSMA and other lesions which may not. Just because one lesion expresses PSMA doesn't mean all the lesions express PSMA. If you have a predominance that express PSMA, then you're going to be a good candidate for Pluvicto. If, for example, you've got half that do and half that don't, Pluvicto may not be a good treatment for you, because even if we kill half the cancer, we still got to deal with the other half. So it is it's a complicated question, and it's never really been clear to me why we don't have a better test to see if there's PSMA running around in someone's blood system, but we don't. It's not been done. So, your question is a really good question, but we don't have a good answer for it. And you'd have to ask somebody like Sartor or Mike Morris, or one of those GU medical oncologists, or Tom Hope, who's a nuclear medicine doc. Why have we never developed a PSMA, a blood test for PSMA? Because I'm sure they could find it from these circulating tumor cells. They pick up a circulating tumor cell and they can test it to see if it's expressing PSMA, but we just haven't done it. I don't know. Anybody on the Brains Trust, Len or Ben? Anybody else want to comment on that?
So PSMA is different from PSA because it's physically attached to the outside of the cell. It's not something that floats around in blood. So that's part of what makes it more difficult. I suppose, yeah, in principle, if you had enough circulating tumor cells, you could see, or if we knew the genetic underpinnings of PSMA expression, we could look at the DNA, the circulating DNA. But it would be wonderful, yeah. This is a great idea to ask one of those doctors, why is it so difficult? Why don't we have one yet? Because it would be very helpful.
Thank y'all.
Oh, and I should say to you, we think around between 15 and 20% of men do not express PSMA.
So we need to qualify that, right?
Go ahead.
People at the beginning of treatment are going to be different from people who've been heavily treated. So 20% is quite likely for people who've had a lot of treatment, but we shouldn't say that applies to people who are getting staging scans at the beginning of their treatment.
Right. I mean, agreed. But by the time you're ready for that Pluvicto treatment, there are about 15% of gents who don't express. It may have been expressed earlier. You may be one of these guys where they thought it was appropriate to do a PSMA test before you had surgery, for example, because there was a suspicion. You might have expressed it then, but as Ben correctly points out, by the time you get ready to 2 or 3 years or 5 years later, you may not be expressing the PSMA. So there you go.
Now to the other Jeff, Dr. Jeff.
Yeah, so after I had that terrible reaction to my last Lupron shot, I asked them to switch me to Orgovix, and I got a letter today saying my insurance company did approve the change. So starting in March, I'll finish my last 5 months on treatment with Orgovix and hopefully never to see another Lupron shot in my life. Hopefully. Second, this is a question. Has anybody here been put on Prolia for bone growth during ADT? And when you finish ADT, then transfer to a bisphosphonate. In other words, you're finished with Prolia, but you need a bisphosphonate to maintain the bone integrity for a while, or do you just stop Prolia and that's the end?
And this is some, yeah, good.
Jeff, I have an article I'll send you. It's called "Can Denosumab Be Stopped Safely?" Their recommendation is if you stop denosumab, whether it's Prolia or Xgeva, after a number of years, and you don't want to stay on it too long because you increase the risk of ONJ. Um, they do suggest to lock in the gains that you made with denosumab, that you get a single infusion of Prometa. Yeah, and so far for me that has worked. 2 years after my Prometa injection, I just recently had a bone density scan, and my bone density had actually increased, so I didn't lose any bone density.
So you were getting Prolia, what, every 6 months?
Well, I was getting Xgeva, which is double that dose, once every 3 months. So I was actually getting a dose of denosumab that's 4 times what you get with Prolia. And I took it for about 4 years, and I started worrying about the risk of ONJ. So that's. But anyway, I'll send you that article. It wasn't for prostate cancer patients. It was, I think, breast cancer. But there's no difference as far as the bones go. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Great answer.
And Rick, I have to take opposition to your comment because I think that Betty Kaywood was the first female baseball announcer, not Lori Singer.
Okay, I'll check with Laurie next time. Or I'll tell you what. I'm going to send you. I'll put in the chat window. I'm going to send you Laurie's. I'm going to send you Laurie's email. You can send her a note.
All right.
She's
Well,
lovely.
I know Betty Kaywood announced Kansas City athletic games in the 1960s, and I don't think Lori Singer is old enough to have done that.
She. I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe she was the first network announcer. Maybe she was the first network. Let me also say, I just want to say something on the. You asked, has anybody taken Prolia? There are many men in our group who have used denosumab, but it has typically been prescribed and was approved in the form of Xgeva, which is what Len mentioned. In the past 2 or 3 years, we've seen a lot more men be prescribed Prolia, which is basically a lower dose. And it's probably a good thing. But the drug's exactly the same. It's just the dose size.
Yeah, I just don't want to stop Prolia, get my last shot in March, and then stop ADT in August, and then leave my bones vulnerable. Because I started this with osteoporosis. I mean, before any of the ADT, I had osteoporosis on a DEXA scan.
Yeah, well, so did I. And back in the day when denosumab wasn't readily available, I got Zometa. I got 3 shots of Zolid. I got 3 infusions of zoledronic acid at the beginning, after 12 months, and a third one after another 12 months. It certainly helped my bone density. I dropped from -2.5 to -0.9 at the base of my spine. However, it's slowly crept up. I think I'm probably about 1.5, and I've never taken bone strengtheners since I came off.
Okay.
Jerry Grimes, your hand's up.
Yeah, I went on Prolia because 18 months after I started ADT, I was on Lupron and bicalutamide. I had gone from normal bone density with a baseline scan to just shy of osteoporosis in 18 months. My T was -2.3. And so we went on Prolia. I had to get a clearance letter from my dentist, and there's all kinds of concern about that necrosis stuff. When my ADT stopped, my testosterone rebounded pretty fast. And as that came up, we decided to stop Prolia at that point. And there was some concern about just stopping Prolia I don't know if this has been proven out, the doctor folks might know, but there was some concern about a specific type of femur fracture that could happen to folks that stopped Prolia. And the doctors that I was talking to at the time, nobody really knew. It's like nobody ever gets off of that stuff. We don't know. You're in kind of uncharted waters. I thought, well, I don't see why I need to be on it if I've got normal testosterone now. So perhaps paying attention to the testosterone recovery rate might be helpful. And a couple years later, I went back on ADT because my PSA was rising, and I also now supplement with estradiol, and my bone density has continued to improve. In fact, I'm back up into normal now. So estradiol above, what's the number, 50 picograms per milliliter, I think is the metric, is considered protective of bone density, so 50 to 80. So the low dose estradiol for people on continuing ADT is helpful. And I don't know about folks that have testosterone that's just not recovering well after ADT. Maybe it would be helpful then too. But that was my history with it, and I today am blessed with having very normal bone density.
That's lucky.
Thank you, Jerry.
Mm-hmm.
Any other thoughts? Okay, David Muslin, you're next.
Thank you, Ben. I ended up with the gynecomastia, which is enlarged male boobs, and looked at myself, and I was getting disgusted. And finally, after about a year, I decided to have the surgery. So I had it last Tuesday down here in Florida, and a little painful, not bad. It really is not as bad as I thought it would be. So I'm excited to not be hiding my chest anymore. I was really starting to wear jackets and couldn't wear T-shirts anymore, and so I'm pretty excited. I'm pretty excited to have had the surgery. The only thing I just want to point out to everybody is I think I could have had 1 or 2 shots of radiation to my chest area before I started the ADT, which may have stopped the growth of my male breasts. So just a point.
So not covered by insurance?
So
the gynecomastia surgery?
Yeah.
Yes, part
It
of
was
it.
covered.
I don't know about the whole thing. The doctor wouldn't take any insurance. He wanted me to pay him, but I'm working with the insurance company now, and I'm hoping to recover some.
yeah,
But I kind of
so
go ahead.
I did a little research for David on that, and the gynecomastia surgery is covered, provided that there's a medical reason. So if you've got pain, if you've got nipple soreness, there's a lot of, not a lot, but there are a number of comorbidities that the guys complain of. And so you have to get your doctor to justify that. And then at that point, you can submit to Medicare. And
Hey, Rick,
and
I got the
what
wrong
you
place.
what are you looking for, Judy? Which meeting?
The care partners.
The Care Partners was last week and next week.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay. Bye.
Okay. Sorry. So first of all, if you're going to do it the way David did, which is just fine, make sure you inform your insurance company, and you get a they may not give you a pre-approval, but at least tell them that you're doing it ahead of time. Really important. And secondly, as David did with Dr. S, you've got to get a medical diagnosis and justification, and then it is Medicare approved. I specifically looked at the Medicare regulations. But as David says, and it's a super point, best thing to do is get a couple of shots of radiation up front. And that, by the way, is not dangerous. I actually spoke to many years ago, I spoke to an oncologist at the rowing club. Non-oncologist, pulmonary doc, about whether heart doc, cardiologist, whether it was dangerous, and they said no, not in the amount that they give you. Len?
Yes, David, I was wondering, when they do the surgery, are they just removing the fatty tissue, or are they removing muscle tissue as well?
No muscle tissue at all. It's actually they just make a small incision on the side of the nipple, and he went in there with what he calls AI liposuction, and takes out all the fatty tissue.
Good.
And it wasn't that big of a deal. I was out for the surgery, but I can feel all my muscle tissue is still there, still strong. And I just have this like vest on with some pads to keep the skin close so it heals real well. And I'm healing perfectly. So,
Okay, great.
and the other thing that was interesting, I'm a pretty open guy. I told everybody I was doing this. I can't believe how many other men have had this done. It's very, very common, and not just for prostate guys. It's, when I was young, I was prone to big boobs anyway, but once I got on ADT, it was like I turned into like a little girl.
Yeah,
But
we've had a few in our group right here. I mean, not
yeah,
necessarily present here, but I know Al
yeah,
Latimer comes to mind, and
well, and the guy up in Canada, the
yeah,
PhD doctor.
yes.
Yeah, he hasn't had the surgery though.
Yes, he did.
Yes, he
Oh,
did.
did he?
Yeah,
Yep.
he had a double mastectomy.
Did you lose weight as a result?
Did I lose weight? Are you asking, Larry?
Yeah, from the.
It's funny. I thought about it. I looked at my boobs. I said, "Oh, it's got to be a pound a side." But I haven't really weighed myself, to be honest.
Here comes the Speedo bathing suit.
I'm just happy not to be so embarrassed about it anymore.
How did you find the doc?
Believe it or not, my wife thinks I'm crazy. I have a trainer down here, and the trainer had it done. And I Googled doctors down in South Florida, and I found the guy who kind of specializes in it. And I find out he specializes in a lot of plastic surgery, but he's a real pro. And I found him on the internet, and he's 15 minutes from my house.
Did you opt for any upgrades as well? little nip tuck, maybe?
No, I'm just happy to end up with a flat chest.
Anyone else? Thanks, David. Terrell, your patience has been rewarded.
Oh, hi. I haven't been on in a while. I don't really have much to say. I was on ADT hormone for a year, and they took me off of it in March of 22, and I've been on a holiday ever since. So it's coming up on 3 years in March this year.
Okay.
And is your PSAs nice and low, Terrell?
Oh yeah, the PSA level's undetectable, and 3 months after they took me off ADT hormone, the testosterone went up into the 400s, and my last testosterone a couple weeks ago was at 496.
Feeling good?
Yeah, and I'm looking good too. I feel great.
Good. And who's your? I'm just looking at my notes here. Who is your? Oh, you're with Borno. Is she still seeing you? Do you ever talk to her? She's sort of gone MIA for a couple of our guys.
Well, she is still my oncologist out of UCSF. She
Yeah.
she's taking on quite a bit at UCSF. She's getting into the I forget what exactly it was. Uh, Something to do with the prostate cancer. Getting money for certain drugs or something. I forget what it was, but she does. I do the video conferences with her every 3 months. And recently, I mean, the past year and a half, I haven't really talked to her because there really hasn't been much to talk about. I suspect that if the when the PSA comes back, that she'll get on the call. But right now, thankfully, I really don't need to talk to her because there's nothing to talk about.
I like her, but unfortunately she hasn't been super responsive. And in fact, the gent who left early on, who was off to speak to his oncologist, is largely because he had to switch. He switched oncologists at UCSF, which is kind of unusual because she's reducing her load, and she also has a private um, project.
Yeah,
And
that's what it was. I forget what exactly it was. It was like getting funding for something. I forget exactly what she was getting herself into.
yeah,
But she did contact me and told me that she was reducing her workload on the
yeah,
oncology side because of this, and that I would still remain as one of her patients. So, I'm just kind of hanging out.
well, it's great that you're so stable, and we love that, and that you're doing fine. That's all
Yeah,
good news.
yeah. So
Yeah,
don't have much to say, which is
that's
good.
enough. Yeah, that's what we
Yep.
love to hear.
Yep.
Can't get enough good news. Luther, eager to hear what you have to say.
Well, this might not be very exciting. This might be more of a vent, or I might be and I'm probably blowing it out of proportion. But I've a little story. Shouldn't be that long. But I'm a month past after finishing radiation. I'm on hormone therapy, all this stuff, trying to exercise, and I'm back at work, trying to make sure I don't have any fatigue. And I get a routine blood test done from my gastro because I have another chronic condition, and it shows I'm anemic. And I thought, oh, I know who's the expert at this. I'll just send this over to my hematologist oncologist and make sure like this is looked at properly. And basically complete stiff arm from my oncology team because it's not bad enough to treat, and they're not monitoring that stuff for the abiraterone, and they're not interested in adding that test to their panel. And so I'm annoyed that I have to chase it up with 3 other doctors now, just to make I understand after pelvic radiation levels can come down a bit, but I want someone to make sure it actually has come back a month from now. And I'm just annoyed to all hell that a blood doctor wouldn't check the red blood counts.
Nope.
That's it.
Jim, what do you say?
If you're on, I believe, abiraterone, they are supposed to check your CBCs. And in fact, anyway, I get it done essentially every month. Every CBCs, WPCs, chem panel, and my red count, HDB, and the hematocrit are about 10% low, and they have been continually for the entire 7 years. So they say they aren't supposed to do it. Read the insert for the abiraterone, and it will tell you exactly what they are supposed to do, and then have them do it.
Yeah, because they're just ordering a comp metabolic set, and the blood counts aren't on that.
Right. As I said, read the insert, present it to them, say, look, this is what is supposed to be done. let's get it done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah, is it the nurse that's saying it, or is it Dr. Ung?
I was a nurse that sent the reply to me.
Yeah, well, you tell. I fully endorse what Captain Jim said. You tell him to check the insert on abiraterone and that you want CBC done.
Send it to
And
him
you,
also.
I'm
yeah,
going to. I've got 2 other appointments in the next month. I got primary care in 2 weeks. I'll get someone to order the next round of tests for me, but I was just a bit annoyed by the brush off. My hemoglobin is 11.7. My hemocrit's 36, so I guess it's not very low. But you'd think, hey, we got this thing that can cause fatigue with all this other stuff that
yeah,
can cause fatigue. We
you're
may be
right.
somewhat interested in this.
Be your own best advocate, Luther. You're good at that, and you can do
Yeah,
it,
I'm gonna
man.
be a little cranky. I was just too lazy to make more phone calls. How many times can you call doctors in 1 week, right?
Right.
That's it. Like I said, it was just me complaining.
Can never get enough of those either. And that's a wrap. Thank you,
Whoa,
everybody.
that's good.
Sorry.
Good job. Good
A
job,
short
Ben.
one for this group.
Oh, we're only 11 minutes over time. Although we do have to say he didn't have any newbies. So,
Yes.
so
Yes.
he didn't have any newbies. And we had a long and very, very good conversation about testosterone replacement.
Yes. Yes.
So,
Okay.
oh, wait
Thank
a
you.
minute. Doug,
Oh,
now Doug's got, what's up, Doug?
I'll just have, did you advocate on my behalf to get Dr. Graff for me?
Did I? Are you talking to me?
Yeah, you mentioned that you might have someone who would be able to call and make that arrangement.
Well, you said that you had her set up.
Okay. No, actually, what happened was, okay, the good news is I have an appointment with her. I just
Yeah,
thought that you had gone through other contacts to help that
well,
happen.
no. I mean, when you told us last time that you had an appointment with her, but it was, when is it, in March? Was it, from memory?
Yeah, no, this just came up 2 days ago. No, I had I visited a primary care. I asked for a referral to Julie Graff. She referred me initially to a urologist, and I thought,
Right.
well, that means I'm going to have to go up the line. Well, then I got a call a couple of days ago, and it was to make an appointment with Dr. Graff. So I have the appointment.
Okay. No, I think the way we left it was you were going to see the urologist, and then you were going to let me know whether they were going to refer you to Graff or one of her other people. And I
Right.
said, if we refer you to one of her other people, then I can call Mike Crosby, and we can do it. But that's great. When are you going to see her?
Early March. They offered an appointment during February, but unfortunately or fortunately, I'm going to be swimming with humpback whales.
Oh, good for you. Where?
Dominican Republic.
Oh my gosh! At least the water's warm down there.
A little warmer than here. And then the
Yes, a
following
little
week, I'm
bit
going to
warmer.
swim with sperm whales in Dominica.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, I'm delighted to hear it, Doug, and we'll go from there. I'll
And
if I
thank you very much. Thank you very
yeah,
much for the encouragement, and I got there.
pleasure. All right. Oh, Julian, when did you get here?
I snuck in.
You did sneak in. We didn't see
Yeah.
you. How are you?
I'm doing great. My PSA is in the dirt still after 25 months.
All right. Okay.
Dr. E doesn't want to talk to me anymore. I say, what do I want to talk to you for? You're doing great.
I love it.
Yeah, me
Victim of
too.
your
Love
own
it.
success.
We love it. We love it. Okay.
All right.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Good night.
Thank you very much.
Good night. Good night.
Good night, everyone.